Hello friends, and welcome back to English Unleashed. I'm Tom. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably learning English on your own without a teacher, classroom, homework, or exams. It's just you, your phone, your headphones, and your time. Many language learners see this as a challenge, believing they need a formal instructor or a structured class to progress. They think that without a teacher to correct mistakes, they cannot learn effectively. Today, I want to share a different perspective. I want to show you how to practice English independently, even in a quiet room or during small moments in everyday life, without feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Instead of relying on traditional methods rooted in school settings, it'll introduce fresh ways of thinking about language practice that are simple yet powerful. Most people imagine practice as a formal activity stopping whatever you're doing, opening a book or an app, and telling yourself, "Now I study English." While this may seem responsible or serious, it can actually create unnecessary pressure. When you say, "Now I study English," your mind prepares itself for effort and even potential mistakes, which often leads to stress. Actual mastery of a language comes from living it, not just studying it in books or classrooms. Think about the idea of fitting English into your life, making it a natural, effortless part of your daily routine instead of something heavy or separate from what you do. The goal is for English to blend seamlessly with your everyday experiences, rather than sit on top of them like a heavy burden. Now, instead of establishing fixed study times, consider creating small language moments throughout your day. These are brief, manageable interactions with the language that your brain is less likely to resist because they are tiny and unobtrusive. These moments could be just a few seconds long, like observing a simple task or making a short statement in your mind. Imagine you are making tea or coffee. It's not a special language practice session, you're just standing there. Most people just wait or think about other things, but you can gently shift your thoughts. Inside, quietly say something like, "I am making tea. The water is hot. I am waiting," without trying to correct yourself or repeat it multiple times. This isn't about speaking out loud, but about thinking in English. It's a moment of mental practice connecting your ideas with the language naturally. Many believe that speaking is the only real way to learn, but understanding and thinking in English are equally essential. Thinking in English is like warming up your engine before driving. It prepares your mind quietly and without stress. This mental flexibility makes actual speaking easier when the time comes. You can also incorporate language practice into everyday actions. For instance, when you pick up your phone to check messages, pause for a second before reading. Inside your head, say something like, "I'm checking my messages. I want to see what's new. I'm just looking." Here, you're not translating from your native language into English, you're directly connecting your thoughts with the language. This approach helps cut out the middleman, which is translation, making your use of English faster and more natural. It's important to stop correcting every little mistake during these moments. Correction can interrupt your flow and make you self-conscious. Instead, focus on being present, simply connecting English with what's happening around you. This connection adds meaning, which your brain loves, and it makes learning more engaging and less stressful. Many learners wait for the perfect time to practice, but time doesn't just appear suddenly. Waiting for the ideal moment is like waiting for perfect weather. It rarely happens. Instead, think about everyday moments like washing your hands, walking, sitting down, or feeling tired as natural opportunities for language practice. These small, spontaneous moments are how children learn their first language. They don't sit down with textbooks. They connect sounds with feelings and actions through daily experience. In summary, effective language learning doesn't have to be rigid or formal. It's about integrating small, meaningful moments into your life, making the process natural, relaxed, and continuous. These tiny practices build up over time. And just like how children acquire their language skills without studying or memorizing rules, you can do the same by paying attention to the everyday interactions that surround you. They reside within language itself, and this is the core idea. Age doesn't prevent you from learning this way because your brain still remembers how to do it. The main obstacle isn't your ability, it's the method you use. When you allow yourself small moments of English throughout your day, your brain feels permission to relax. When the brain relaxes, learning accelerates. This approach becomes your personal, individual system, your own way of practicing. Instead of saying, "I am studying English," you simply live small snippets of the language many times each day, just a few seconds, a single sentence, or a brief moment. Over time, something interesting occurs. English no longer feels like a chore. It begins to feel familiar, and familiarity is the gateway to fluency. Many learners often repeat the same phrase repeatedly. I understand English, but I can't speak. They tend to believe that the problem lies in vocabulary, grammar, or pronunciation. However, the true challenge is often something else entirely: fear of sounding wrong. When you speak out loud, many things happen simultaneously. Your voice becomes public, and your mistakes feel real. You might feel exposed or vulnerable. There's an English expression that describes this: to put yourself out there. It means openly showing yourself, even when nervous. For many learning English, speaking feels like putting themselves out there too soon. Their body reacts, throat tightens, the mind blanks, words vanish. This isn't because they lack English skills, it's because their brain perceives danger. Now, consider a radically different idea. What if you could practice speaking without fear, without risk? What if you could train your mouth and mind quietly, without making a sound? That's where invisible speaking begins. If something is invisible, you cannot see it, but it's still happening. Invisible speaking involves moving your mouth, shaping words, but not producing any sound. You're speaking silently, known only to yourself. Initially, this may feel strange, but it's a way to take the pressure off, to reduce stress and anxiety about speaking. Without sound or an audience, fear diminishes. You can practice almost anywhere: while walking, sitting on the bus, alone, at home. Even when others are nearby, no one hears you, no one judges. You merely move your lips, saying things like, "Today was long. I feel tired. I want to rest," without rushing or performing. You're not trying to sound perfect, you're training your muscles in a gentle, gradual way. This approach is about easing into speaking. Instead of diving all at once into full, spoken conversation, you start slowly, building confidence and muscle memory without pressure. Speaking isn't just about words, it's physical. Your mouth, tongue, jaw need practice. Invisible speaking nurtures these parts gently. There's an English phrase that describes this process: to ease into something. It means to begin gradually, without force. Invisible speaking helps you ease into active speaking, like dipping your toes into the water, instead of jumping straight in. A vital element in this process is building confidence. True confidence doesn't come from perfection, it grows through familiarity. Every day, if your mouth moves in English, even silently, your body begins to see this as normal. When something feels normal, fear loses its grip. Many learners wait until they feel ready to speak out loud, but readiness is a misconception. Confidence isn't something to wait for, it comes after taking action. Acting first, without fearing mistakes, allows confidence to develop naturally. Invisible speaking offers a risk-free way to act. Eventually, something interesting happens. A desire to produce sound. Maybe only a whisper or a single word at first. You don't force it, you allow it to develop naturally. By letting your practice unfold in its own time, you avoid tension and frustration. Think of opening a door slowly, gently turning the handle, no pushing or kicking. This is fundamentally different from classroom speaking situations, where learners often feel scrutinized and on display. Invisible speaking removes this pressure: no spotlight, no audience, just consistent practice. Another benefit is clarity of mind. When you speak silently, your focus shifts from speed to understanding. You're not racing against time, instead, you're creating smooth mental pathways. These pathways lay the foundation for easier speaking in the future. Invisible speaking isn't fake practice, it's pre-speaking, a preparatory step that trains your system. Over time, your brain becomes familiar with the sounds and movements needed to speak, making actual speaking less intimidating. The more familiar you are with the process, the less scary it becomes, until speaking aloud feels natural, like a natural extension of your thinking. Most learners believe progress depends on learning more words, grammar, or completing more lessons. They think stopping would mean stagnation, but this mindset often leads to an overcrowded mind, a feeling of having too much on your plate. Instead, focusing on small, consistent steps like invisible speaking helps free your mind from overload. It's about quality, not quantity, and about building a strong, relaxed foundation for real speaking in the future. This passage explores a fundamental approach to language learning that emphasizes depth over breadth. Instead of overwhelming oneself with many new words or grammar rules each day, the focus is on engaging deeply with a single idea. These ideas are meaningful and connected to real human experiences, such as feeling tired, waiting, enjoying small moments, or not wanting to do something. By centering learning around one idea, learners build a meaningful connection between language and life. making their practice more relevant and memorable. Rather than trying to memorize many vocabulary words or rules quickly, this method encourages learners to think about and live inside one idea at a time. Throughout the day, they revisit this idea in different ways, creating sentences like, "I feel tired today," or "I'm a little tired but need to rest later." These simple reflections help the language settle naturally, as if walking side by side rather than chasing after it. This process allows the brain time to absorb and internalize new language naturally, much like children who repeatedly talk about familiar topics. Refining their understanding through gentle repetition, building comfort and confidence is a key aspect of this method. When learners focus on a single idea, they experience small successes that motivate them and foster a sense of progress. These small wins gradually strengthen their confidence and reduce feelings of frustration or being lost. Learning this way also teaches flexibility, because one idea can be expressed in many different sentences, illustrating how English adapts to the learner's life. An important psychological benefit of this approach is emotional safety. When learners try to cover many topics at once, they may feel overwhelmed, worried about their vocabulary, or unsure about how to express themselves. Concentrating on one idea at a time provides stability and calmness, helping learners feel grounded and making their progress authentic rather than superficial. This sense of steady progress encourages persistence and reinforces motivation. The system emphasizes that language development isn't about speed or perfect answers, it's about ease of thinking. Repeating an idea in different ways helps the brain become comfortable with it, much like how children learn through repetition rather than constantly inventing new topics. This repetition feels reassuring rather than boring, allowing learners to get the hang of how English functions internally. Another crucial aspect is shifting away from traditional language learning patterns, rooted in question-answer formats that can induce anxiety. In classrooms, students often learn that silence or not knowing answers is bad, which can create fear of speaking. However, real-world communication is often imperfect. People pause, change their minds, or speak hesitantly. Natural language is messy and nonlinear, and embracing this messiness is essential. A different approach recommends practicing English without the need for immediate answers. Instead of rushing to respond, learners sit with questions or feelings in English, allowing the language to stay in their minds without pressure. For example, asking oneself why they feel calm in a moment and simply observing that thought without rushing to explain or find the perfect words encourages a relaxed, active engagement with the language. This method fosters a calm, open mindset where language absorption happens naturally and comfortably, much like how people truly communicate in daily life. This passage emphasizes the importance of maintaining a calm and relaxed mindset when learning a language, particularly English. Stress has the powerful effect of closing the mind. When you are anxious or pressured, your brain tends to shut down, making it difficult to absorb new information. Conversely, a state of calm opens the mind and stimulates curiosity, which is one of the most potent forces for effective learning. When you're curious, your brain becomes eager to explore and understand, turning language acquisition into a more natural and enjoyable process. Many learners tend to focus on future goals, such as becoming fluent or speaking confidently. While setting goals is not inherently wrong, thinking about a distant future can sometimes create feelings of heaviness or frustration, especially if those goals seem unreachable. When goals feel out of reach, learners might experience pressure instead of motivation, leading to feelings of fatigue or even discouragement. This can make the journey toward fluency feel overwhelming and distant. An alternative approach is to shift from imagining purely future goals to envisioning a future memory. Unlike goals that you chase after, memories are about experiences you've already lived. The brain responds very differently to these two concepts. When you think of a future memory, you are not trying to achieve something through effort alone. Instead, you are recalling an experience as if it has already happened. Picture yourself a year from now, not as a perfect speaker or someone famous, but simply as yourself, calm, speaking English comfortably, and feeling at ease. You are not rushing or trying to be perfect, you are just comfortable with the language. The crucial part of this visualization is imagining that your future self is looking back at today. In this imagined future, you might say, "I remember when English felt difficult," or "I practiced alone, and now I speak more confidently." This mental exercise shifts your perspective from striving to perceiving progress as already made. Your future self's reflection on today is filled with kindness, not criticism, which is vital because the brain learns best when it feels safe, Continuing to imagine future you speaking confidently, you might feel grateful for not giving up, for staying patient, and for trusting the process. This perspective helps you recognize that language growth occurs gradually, and quietly. It's often happening even before you see clear evidence of progress. With this approach, you learn to appreciate the small, honest moments of language use, thinking in English, being silent in English, or refraining from forcing answers rather than pressing for perfection or rapid results. Before concluding, it's important to remember that you are not behind or slow in your learning journey. You're not doing it wrong. Learning independently doesn't mean doing it without support. It means adopting a quieter, kinder way of learning. Progress happens one small step at a time, in moments of honesty and patience, rather than in big leaps or perfect days. Focus on these small, genuine moments, and trust that your growth is happening steadily. Thank you for listening to this episode of English Unleashed. Keep believing in yourself, continue learning, and embrace the journey with patience and kindness.